On the diplomatic front, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is returning to the Middle East this week for another round of shuttle diplomacy. The White House welcomed the ceasefire extension, saying it's hopeful the pause will continue for longer.
The approach that we're taking with Israel and, quite frankly, with our partners in the region is working. It's getting aid into people that need it. It's getting a pause in the fighting. It's getting hostages out. It's getting Americans out. And quite frankly, we continue to urge and will continue to urge the Israelis as they conduct military operations to do so with the utmost care for innocent civilian life.
Let's get more from Manuel Rapalo in Washington, D.C. for us. Manny, so the U.S. Secretary of State back in the region later this week. What is he hoping to achieve this time around?
Fully, this is a packed schedule over the course of the next few days for U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. His trip begins in Belgium, where he will be attending a NATO summit. Of course, the topic of conversation there will be the ongoing war in Ukraine. From there, Secretary Blinken will be attending a meeting of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe in North Macedonia. One of the main themes of these talks will be promotion of democracy and continued joint security strategy in the region there. All of these meetings, of course, taking place before Secretary Blinken travels to Israel and the occupied West Bank, where he's expected to be speaking about concrete ways toward achieving a sustained ceasefire, as well as an action plan for Palestinians once the conflict is over. Despite the sort of positive reaction by U.S. officials here in Washington to the announcement of the two-day extension, it is a sort of cautious optimism here. There's an understanding that this is a delicate process that will require continued negotiation moving forward. There are still questions. The challenge right now is how, for the U.S. especially, is for how to best seize on this opportunity to not only continue with mediation, but to provide the much-needed humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza, whether that be food or water. We heard from these previous reports. We understand how dire the situation is in Gaza, the need for fuel, the need for medical supplies. So, again, the need for finding a way to best seize on this opportunity. Lastly, Secretary Blinken will be traveling to Dubai for the COP28 UN Climate Summit. Of course, this is a climate summit, but there is an expectation that the war in Gaza will take precedence at this meeting as well.
Thank you, Manny. Manuel Rapalo live there in Washington, D.C.